Good morning and welcome back to the Closers Inner Circle podcast with your hosts, Denise Griffitts and Bengay III. And our conversation today is about how repetition creates mastery, the sales fundamental that every closer must practice. And we're focusing on a really simple truth that many salespeople they overlook. Mastery does not come from constantly chasing new techniques, or I call them shiny objects. It comes from repeating and refining the fundamentals that you know already work. And top professionals build their success by consistently practicing core skills such as listening, really listening, asking the right questions, and presenting solutions clearly. And over time, repetition builds confidence, consistency, I said that earlier, and true mastery. And today, we are sponsored by me, Denise Griffitts. I am the host of Your Partner in Success Radio. It's an 18-year-old podcast that is ranked in the top 1.5% of the most popular podcasts global. And we are now just accepting 5 sponsors per quarter for both Your Partner in Success Radio and this podcast, the Closers Inner Circle podcast, with my mentor and my very dear friend, Bengay III. So if you want to put your brand in front of entrepreneurs, authors, business leaders, and sales professionals who are very serious about growth, this is your opportunity. You can visit yourpartnerinsuccessradio.com and go to the Partner with Us tab to learn more. But you can also call me directly, toll free at 888-719-6711. In fact, I would prefer that. I would love to chat with you. Ben, good morning. It is Wednesday, and here we are.
Here we are. It happens every Wednesday. How are you today?
We try to make it happen every Wednesday. We're pretty good with that, but sometimes I think it was last week, my microphone just said no, and I could hear you, but nothing I did could make, I couldn't say a thing. So I just figured out that you had plenty to say, and I just sat back and watched it unfold. So thank you. I mean, you carried the whole thing.
That's a long time when you ask your partner a question and there's nothing but silence. And
I know.
We've had these
I heard you
glitches.
panic a bit.
Yeah. Denise.
Yeah. I cut that part out, but I heard you, Denise, and it was like, that's when we were talking a minute ago. That's when I started texting you. I even emailed your wife. I can't make him hear me. And I was waiting for her to say me either, but she didn't. God bless her. So, but yeah, we made it through.
It's a long time. 5 seconds is nothing in real time, but 5 seconds of your co-host doesn't answer you is about the same as 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
It really changes your perspective.
It wasn't me. It was my microphone. I promise it wasn't me, but we made it through. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we discussed the value of repetition, and I want to clear up some misconceptions about scripting, which I always get a kick out of. People don't understand that they're on script most of the time. When they go to a party, they tend to say the same things to strangers and the same things to friends and so on that they say elsewhere. But if you say in business to them, I want you to learn a presentation, also known as a script, they go, oh no, I would never go on a script. But they watch television all day long or go to the movies where everything they see is scripted. And anything that wasn't scripted was cut out, edited, and redone. So net result, by the time you see it, it was scripted. I like to watch the newscasters. I'm a news junkie, but I watch the newscasters, and I frequently see their eyes shift from line to line while they're staring intently into their camera lens, which is also a teleprompter. And you see their eyes going back and forth as they read each line. So in this world of electronics and super fast correspondence conversations, news, you can't afford to not be scripted and presented and and that gives you room to go off script from time to time. But even then, they're looking at the clock. They know how long they have. On Fox News, for instance, their computer, I'm not even sure there's a person doing it. Their computer is ruthless. When it's time for the show to end, it ends. Whether the host or hostess is talking or the guest is talking or whatever, it ends. So they don't want you winging it and taking 3 minutes to say something that was supposed to take 2 minutes and 41 seconds.
And then having to go on Twitter to apologize for what you said that wasn't scripted. So we're seeing that these days.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I would like to cover, and some of it will be things we've talked about before, but repetition is part of the title of today's talk. Let's clear up scripting for a moment, because that's where people roll their eyes, and as I just discussed, they don't realize how much is scripted. But the prospect is scripted, you're scripted, etc. If you've been in selling over 30 days, you've heard every objection about the product or service you're representing currently. Every objection that you will ever hear. There's only so many, and I guess the prospects go to prospect school and learn them. Of course, there's a few that bridge any industry. I want to think it over. It's not the money, which means it is the money. Uh, and
My wife will kill me.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great one, because if you're in a situation, if you're talking to a business person in his or her office, I don't spend any time on the spouse. But if I'm talking to someone it's a family decision or in their house or more of a personal decision, I'm talking to both of them, or I don't talk. I don't trust them to give my presentation that they've only heard once to someone else and get it right. I don't give my presentations to receptionists, secretaries, or anyone that's in that position. I respect the gatekeeper because they're going to control whether I get in to see the person or not, but I understand they're the gatekeeper. And so my job is to sell them on letting me in, or giving me more time or whatever I'm up to at the moment. But they're not there to decide whether or not they're going to buy my widget or not. Yeah, but dear friend of mine, Hugh Harris, he's now a very successful restaurateur, but for years he was in the home improvement business. And he decided one day to change his supplier for roofing materials. I assume that means shingles and so on. And so he picked the one that's known as the best in the industry and the biggest, and he called them. He said, "This is Hugh Harris at Dixie Home Crafters." And the guy said, "Wow, I've been trying to get through to you for 2 or 3 years." And he said, "Well, I didn't know that. Why?" And he said, "Well, I don't know what he called her, gatekeeper, secretary, whatever. Whenever I would ask for you, she would ask me why I was calling, etc. That's fine. I understand that." And I would say shingles, let's say. And she would say, "I'm really sorry, but we have a shingle supplier we've used for years." And that was the end of the conversation. And you laughed and said, "The only reason we've used them for years is you didn't get through to me. I've been,
Oh,
I've been thinking about changing suppliers for years, and sort of wondered, since we were the largest privately owned home improvement company in the nation at the time, sort of wondering why you didn't call." And the guy says, "I called, and I called, and I
I even
called."
cried. I begged. I wept.
But
What happened with her? Did she have did, he say may want to be a little bit more careful about this?
well, yeah, he did a little rethreading on her, but on the other hand,
Okay.
you can't criticize her. She was
No, she was doing her job.
doing her job. Marty Conley, Martha was her real name, but Marty Conley was, and I forget who gave it. It might have been you that gave me a term I wish I'd used back then. When she first came to work with me, she was my secretary. And over time, it became administrator and so on, because she was far more than a secretary. She ran my business life and parts of my personal life and so on. So in talking with somebody one day, they used the term chief of staff,
Yeah, I
which,
remember. I don't think it was me, but I do remember you talking about that.
yeah, well, a chief of staff, like in the White House, that lady, I don't know her name, but the blonde haired,
Susie Wiles.
yeah, okay, yeah. Uh, she's second only to the president, the most powerful person in Washington, because she decides who talks to him, when, about what, whether it's in person or over the phone or on Zoom or whatever they use, and so on. So your first sale is Susie Walls. Is that what you said?
Wiles.
Yeah. Okay. Your first sale is to her, and if you can't get through to her, you're out of luck. Which makes, since she controls the flow of information and people, she's the dominant player in the room. And Marty Conley, I now refer to as chief of staff, although we didn't use that term back then, because that's what she was. And from time to time, I'd be talking to someone that she made an appointment with and let in, and I was thinking to myself, why? Am I talking to this person with all this valuable time I have? And it was that they charmed themselves past Marty, or she liked him. An example, you asked me about off mic before we got started this morning. You mentioned CEO Space, Bernie Dorman's old company.
Right.
Bertie Dorman's father, Alan, worked for me in a company called Mind Dynamics, which was the forerunner to Est and the Forum and LifeSpring and all of those. But it was just a division of Holiday Magic Cosmetics. And one day, Marty comes to the door and says, your next appointment is here. I think you're going to really like this. And in walks Bernie Dorman, 15 years old. I didn't know Alan Dorman had a son, but here he was, 15 years old. But he was, as you know, a charmer and had nerves of steel. Bernie never met a person that he couldn't become friends with and collaborate with in about 5 minutes max. And he charmed his way past Marty, not using his father's name. I'm not even sure Marty knew. She might have wondered why he hung around the office so much, but he was just waiting for a ride home when his father got off. And I still deal with people. And then he rose up. I didn't hear from him for years. And then he called one day and said, I don't know if you remember me, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm CEO, founder, owner, et cetera, of CEO Space. I said, well, I've heard of it. Yeah. It was a seminar company. And he said, well, that's what I did. I hung around you guys long enough where I decided that's what I wanted to do. And now I'd like to have you come speak. And I became a member of their faculty and so on. That came because Marty Conley liked a 15-year-old boy and let him in my office, and I grew to like and love him. And then years go by, and he's hiring me. So you got to get past them, but you don't give your presentation to them. Here's a little thing I learned years ago. Everyone in the office, name a company, everyone in the office, including the janitor, can say, no, we don't need that. It's like the receptionist at the roofing company. We don't need that. We have one, and you're done. Only one person in the company, however, can buy your product or service. Because they're segmented. There may be a lot of people in there buying things, but your product comes under the heading of, or under the bailiwick of so-and-so, Mr. or Mrs. or whatever, Johnson, and they are the only person that can say yes. So you don't give your presentation, no matter how good it is, to the janitor, the gatekeeper, or anybody else. Your job, understand your job. The sale I'm trying to make right now is to get to the person who can say yes, not to any of the others who can say no. And when they say no, you're done. If the janitor says no loudly enough, word goes around. That person's been turned down. That may be an extreme example, but I've seen it at work. If you can't get in, when I was running Holiday Magic, for some reason, they were already doing it before I got there. It was high security. You had to be buzzed into the lobby. You had to be buzzed into the inner sanctum. You had to be buzzed here, buzzed there, and so on. And if the receptionist out in the lobby, who had nothing to do with anything other than being the receptionist in the lobby, didn't like you, she just didn't buzz you in. You're standing out in the street going, zzz, zzz, zzz,
Ouch.
you know.
And that
So,
happens. I
yeah,
mean,
of course it does.
honestly, so many people, if they're the ones sliding the window open, like the dentist's office, or they're saying, yes, can I help you? And you hand them something, it goes straight in the trash.
Yeah, unless
That's
it's
where it's going to
lunch.
go.
Unless unless it's lunch.
Or donuts. I know.
Yeah, because
Donuts.
if you work in a medical office of any kind, that's how you eat. Sales reps feeding you. If you're ever hungry and down and out and don't have any money, go to a dentist's office at noon, and some sales rep will, will come in with donuts or something.
See, I did not know that. But going back to SEO, what was it? CEO space?
Hmm.
To just kind of give you an idea how, you may know people, maybe don't remember them, but we all kind of stay connected in a way. And the reason I was asking you this morning in the green room about CEO space is because I had an email on LinkedIn from a very nice man named Keith Leon, and he said he knew you and, wanted to, talk to me about either coming on this podcast or my podcast. I can't remember what it was now, but I said, well, let's talk. And I asked him during the pre-interview, I said, so how do you know Ben? I mean, who doesn't know Ben? I felt kind of silly asking it. But he said, well, I met him in CEO space a long time ago. He probably doesn't remember me, but it was CEO space. I went, oh, and that's why I was asking you about it. So what he did, I thought was very smart. He just went directly to me. He didn't, try to get in front of you because he probably felt like maybe he couldn't. And he did an end run around you and went straight to me. And he's going to be on my podcast in August.
Here you go.
Yeah.
That's how. And I wouldn't have, if he reminded me how we knew each other, I wouldn't have given him the cold shoulder anyway.
I
But
know.
that's among my jobs with you. If every time somebody wanted to talk to you personally and I was talking to them, that's all you do all day long. So I steer them away or I steer them to your emails, and then you can make up your mind if you want to talk to them. But in a way, I'm a gatekeeper for a lot of my friends and associates in business. I don't want to just bug them. And if it's somebody really bad, they've already wasted some of my time. I might tell them you don't have a phone number or an email. You're sort of a hermit or hermitage,
I am. I'm a hermitess.
whatever that is.
And honestly, my phone number is not public. I mean, it's just you have it. My cell phone number, maybe 5 people have it. You have to be able to. That's why I give you my toll-free number. Call me there. I'll respond. But I'm not going to have my phone ringing off the hook all the time.
And that's the reason God invented voicemail. Uh, I don't take in if I don't know your name, and want to talk to you at that moment. I glance down and it goes to voicemail. Then at my leisure, I will call you back or decide not to call you back. Yeah,
Exactly. I
and
do
if
the
you
same thing.
and if you're going to leave me a voicemail, speaking of scripting, leave me one that's effective, one that you've designed and tested and it works. Because if I just need 5 minutes of your time for a quick call.
No.
That's the
No.
quick, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the quickest way to get deleted in my world.
And I
Oh.
normally put another word in front of that. No.
So
And you mentioned something earlier back in the green room. We have more fun in there, I'm telling you. But when you're leaving these messages or you're leaving an email, for crying out loud, tell people who you are, first and last names, please.
yes,
We talk to so many people. It may not land. We're like, who? I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I may know who you are, but if you haven't given me the information I need, it's gonna go in the trash.
I have a dear friend, in I include dear friend in people I haven't seen in 25 or 30 years because we were dear friends and nothing went wrong. We're just busy doing other things. Anyway, a dear friend sent me a note. I forget what it said, but it was genuine, general and innocuous, and he signed it Eric. Well, I scanned through the name thing on the computer, and I knew 53 Erics.
So not helpful.
Yeah, not helpful at all. So I
Yeah.
just ignored it. And then he called back, and I ignored it, and back and back and back. Finally, he said something in one of his voicemails that made me think maybe he was an old friend of mine from Holiday Magic Cosmetics. So I returned the call and I said, "Hi, this is Ben Gay the Third. I always give my name when I call people. Unfortunately, you didn't leave yours in the 6 or 7 times to get through to me. Who are you?" And he gave me his last name, and the veil parted, and it
The
was a
penny
dear
drop.
friend.
Right.
Yeah, but it'd been 30 years, and Eric doesn't help. I need to know Eric who and why, etc. And I need that, if you expect to really get through, I need that in a carefully scripted, I don't want to hear it that it's scripted, but a carefully scripted message that answers all the questions. Who are you? How do I know you? Why are you calling? And who do you want to talk to? Because getting through to me may not be the right person. You might want to talk to the head of accounting,
Right.
or you might want to talk to somebody else. So have that presentation ready. And as I started saying moments ago, if you've been selling of a specific product or service more than 30 days, you've heard every objection, stall you will ever hear. So why wouldn't you have uh, an effective response to that ready? And this is a little out of order of my notes, but let me give you some good news. It's not a whole script. The Holiday Magic meeting script was 37 minutes long, beginning to end, and you had to know it word for word from the front of the room. And if you were good at it, and generally speaking, we wouldn't let you up front if you weren't good at it, but if you were good at it, people thought you were just talking off the cuff. But it was word for word, or you didn't get up there. And then then we ran the film, and when the film ended, the last thing you saw was turn to the person who brought you here and ask how you can get started in Holiday Magic. Lights came up, and people who'd watched the film with the prospects turned to the prospect and say, let me show you some stuff about how you can get involved. And then they started drawing circles on the legal pad, and they went through, if they had to, 6 different closes, word for word. And we built a company that was taking in, back then, $1 million a day adjusted for inflation, 3.5 billion with a B in today's money, with people who, generally speaking, had never sold anything, but they learned an effective way to present what we were doing. And in fact, if there was any problem with it, I used to encourage them to sort of don't start when the guy next to you starts talking to his prospects. Wait a half a beat or something so you don't sound like the Mormon Tabernacle choir singing, because you're supposed to be saying word for word what you learn to say. Good example. What I started talking about was script chunks. The Holiday Magic cosmetic script was 37 minutes if you did it properly, from beginning to end, the live part from the speaker in front. I'm not encouraging you to do that. Although if I'm up in front of a room and it's, the XYZ company in the ABC industry, it's going to sound remarkably like the last time I talked to a group like that in that industry, because I've found an effective way to do it. So I can give a 37-minute scripted presentation if I have to. But what I use most of the time now, in a more conversational manner, is what somebody taught me to use the term script chunks. In other words, you can look at the products and services we offer And if you ask me to describe any one of them, I will give you word for word the best way I've found to describe that product or service. And it's a script chunk. It's not 37 minutes beginning to end. It's a great question. Da 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 da. Might be 10 seconds. It might be 25 seconds, but it's quick and it's a chunk of what. Now, if I'd given the whole presentation, you would have heard that sentence in the middle of the long presentation, but you don't need the whole thing every time. So anyway, I call it a script chunk, and they're so effective. Let me give you an example of the best one that I'm aware of, and this isn't spoken. That isn't the way it was done, but I'm talking about saying getting it right and saying it over and over and over again. Everybody on this call in the United States and probably internationally has received a letter from the Wall Street Journal.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. And I'm paraphrasing it. I don't claim to have it absolutely memorized, but it starts off, and it's, by the way, it's copyrighted and trademarked. If you get too close to using it, you'll get sued by the Wall Street Journal. But the gist of it is 20 years ago or 25 years ago, whatever it was, on a bright spring day, two people graduated from college. And then it goes on to explain same class, same people, same instructors, etc. But one of them today is stuck in middle management at the XYZ company, and the other one is chairman of the board of the XYZ company. What's the difference? And the letter goes on to explain or imply that the difference is one of them read the Wall Street Journal every day and the other one didn't. And then it goes on down. It's about 2 pages long, as best I recall, and ends with a call to action. And the call to action has been so effective. That's what they call in direct mail, their control piece. They have mailed dozens and dozens of other letters trying to get you to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. And the test they're putting it up against is, does it beat the responses that we get on a bright spring day 25 years ago? 2 people graduate from college. And if it can't beat that, then it goes in the trash can. And if it comes close, they look at maybe what was the best part about it. But I've been told by a friend of mine who's closer to the action with that letter and that company than I am, that it's been over 40 years since they've changed a word in it. It is virtual perfection. Every book on that you read about direct mail marketing or direct response marketing, somewhere in it will probably mention the Wall Street Journal letter. It has, with refining and testing and adjusting, become the best letter ever written to sell a product or a service through the mail. But as we speak today, I know in my heart they are mailing out letters that are different from that letter, trying to beat it. And that comes into there are 3 rules in scripting, 3 rules in sales presentations, 3 rules in direct marketing, direct mail. And they are, number 1, test. Number 2, test. Number 3, test. And you constantly check your results. If I say to somebody, what's your closing percentage? And by their answer, they either don't know, or by the answer, I know they're making it up to impress me because they don't know. It's like in baseball, which is a game of statistics. They know what a left-handed hitter will do against a right-handed pitcher in the 5th inning with 2 on base. I mean, it's artificial intelligence 100 years ago when they started playing. Abner Doubleday and his gang started playing baseball. They realized it was a game of statistics. It's a great story, and I don't really have it totally memorized, but Casey Stengel, the legendary manager of the New York Yankees, I think he won more World Series by the time he retired, he'd won more World Series than anybody else in history. And I sort of doubt it's been broken, but I may be wrong. He sent somebody up to bat in a tight situation, and the guy did what he was supposed to do, and a run scored, and they won the game. And somebody said, "I don't, I don't believe you did that. It just didn't make any sense at the time. I admit it worked fantastically, but that's not what I would have done. Why did you do it? You had." Uh, and they laid out the field. You had somebody on first, somebody on third, whatever, and pitching a right-handed batter against a left-handed pitcher, and so on. And Casey Stengel said something to the effect of, in the seventh inning with a man on second, he said, "Let me tell you what the percentages are." In 100 years of baseball,
All right.
he knew what the percentages were in that situation with two outs and a man on second, and maybe a man on second who had a history of being fast. But you got to know what it is. You got to know what you're looking for so that you can refine and adjust your presentation and
Got it.
turn it into an effective script chunk. And the way you do that and get it good is through repetition. You mentioned in some note to me about this call today that, and I think you alluded to it in your introduction this morning. You don't go chasing the shiny objects.
No, ignore those shiny objects. They will
Yeah,
get you. You will
because
fall right down the cliff.
go ahead. All most of us are doing in sales training is taking proven concepts and twisting them a little bit so that we can get paid for presenting them and be able to claim it's our stuff. But the way it really works, the way selling, the way it really is, hasn't changed since the days of the silk trader uh, to the Orient or to the Yankee peddler on horseback. The customer wants to know what's in it for me, and they want it presented to them in a way that's logical, that they can understand. And you must have given that presentation so many times, repetition, 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 that you meet those goals, and you've tested it and tested it. I've used a script for a while. That doesn't even come to my mind which one it is. But a friend of mine said to me, having heard me deliver it one time, "Why do you say so and so?" And there was a word or a sentence or a short phrase in the script that he thought was off-putting. And I said, "Well, I don't know. It's been so successful so long, I haven't paid much attention. What bothered you about it?" He said, "Well, when I was listening to you talk, I and you said that, I started thinking about that and why'd you phrase it that way and so on. And I didn't hear anything you said for the next 30 or 40 seconds. And
Hmm.
the next, because I was thinking about that. I coined a phrase years ago, confused minds don't buy. And that would come under that heading. While you're thinking about what I just said, you're not thinking about what I'm saying now. And that might be the statement that you need to make up your mind. I don't want you thinking about anything else but that, which brings us to pacing. You watch it. You were talking about listening a moment ago. You watch your prospect. You listen, capital L, listen to what they're saying, because they'll tell you what they want to buy and where, and they'll also tell you when. A friend of mine was selling a car one day, and he didn't think he had the guy, and the guy said, "Now, when I get this home, I've got a water heater at the front of the garage," and the friend told me, "I almost missed it. He's already taken possession of the car. He's throwing up token objections. He wants to think it over. He's got to check with his wife, etc. But he just told me how he's going to park it when he gets home. He has bought. He may or may not know it, but he has bought. Now my job isn't to sell him. It's not to screw up the sale." And that comes from testing, 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 repetition, refining and adjusting your presentation to get it just right. And if I had a script that I was using today, or a script chunk that I was using today, and I have many, and someone got me to think about it and wonder if that was right, I'll still, on a test basis, test, I'll test a different way to do it with some people. And if I see a noticeable increase in sales, positive results, whatever, I'll stick with the new one. I'm not wedded to any presentation, but over time, I've refined it. And it's like starting out with a board that's got splinters in it. You sand it down, and then you get a finer piece of sandpaper and you sand it some more. And finally, you get it like glass. And even then, you run your hand over it to make sure there's no remaining splinters or snags or whatever. Uh, and then it is tested. But then from time to time, things change. There are things I was saying 20 years ago I wouldn't say today because we have a local uh, company that runs ads on the news all the time. I don't know where else they might run them, but on the news. And their slogan is, they fix things, windows and doors and so on. You call them if something's wrong at your house and they come fix it. And they have red trucks, which is part of their sort of logo. That's how I know them when they're going down the street. And their jingle goes, the name of the company, the name of the company, the name of the company, and then it says, the guys in the big red trucks. And if I knew anybody in that company in the ownership position, I would call them and say, the next time you get your little quartet gathered around the microphone, re-record your message. It's the folks in the big red trucks because
Oh,
because guys in the big red trucks imply that it's only men
gotcha. So
in
we're
there.
we're now gender correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not a fanatic about that.
Me
I,
either.
but I also don't want to fly in the face of it. If 20% of the audience is listening to that and get to thinking about, well, don't they have girls? Why are they being disrespectful to women and so on? The
And these
folks in
days,
the
you can almost hear that in the background because people are so focused on things that may or may not be important, but they're focused on it.
right. So it's important to them. So it's important to the sale. But the guys in the big red trucks cease to be as effective as it could be 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Just get them together, get around the microphone, turn on the background music, and sing the folks in the big red trucks. And every time I see that commercial 4 or 5 times a day, it comes on. I don't see it, but I hear it. Um, I think of lady who came to fix the garage door at one of our houses, and the company is owned by the son of a lady who used to work for me. So I watched him grow up, and she was magnificent. When I first saw who it was, I wanted to go over and say, okay, well, let me hold the ladder for you, and let me do this. And why are you doing it? Don't they have men that can be doing this? She was the best mechanic I've ever. Pretty, nice lady, charming, but she could fix a garage door and the spring and the lining and the whatever. I don't know what all goes into it. It ran and still runs like a top thanks to her. So I said to John, the one who I watched grow up, his mom worked for me. His dad did television repair, so he was in the house numerous times over the years. I said to John, uh, do you mention that the lady may come out and fix it? He said, no, I've never thought about it. I said, well, think about it and give her a script. My concern was she can't do the job. I was wrong, but that was my
Right.
concern. And that I had to hold the ladder because she was a delicate little flower. She went down the ladder, like a grasshopper. And if I'd gone up the ladder, she should have been holding it for me.
We're calling an ambulance.
Yeah.
I don't do ladders ever. Yeah. It's
Well,
not where I live, trust me.
I I love to mess around with the new folks at our doctor's office. A couple of years ago, when I became aware of how important, she said, "And your pronouns?" And I said, "They." And she typed something in the computer, and then we went on to something else. And she said, "And your gender?" And I said, "I'm a lesbian dolphin." And she typed, and
Sorry.
Gigi's sitting there in the waiting room, shaking her head. And so to me, that was just a funny little moment in time, and I really wouldn't have thought about it again. But the next time I was at that doctor's, I walked in and there was a new lady at the desk. And she said, hi. And I said, I'm Ben Gay, 8/22/42, because that's, that's how they know you nowadays is your birthday. And she said, oh, okay. Well, I see you like to be called they. And then she looked down at the screen and her expression changed and she smiled and she said, and you're a lesbian dolphin? And I said, that's in there? She said, oh, yeah. You must have said it to one of us. So we put it in the computer. I saw that computer. It's attached to the local hospital, Marshall Hospital. Goes to every doctor, dentist, eye doctor, ear doctor I ever go to. So it's gone not just to the new receptionist. Next time I go to the ear doctor, the next time I went to the ear doctor, I said, out of curiosity, you called me Ben because we've known each other for a long time. What does the computer say to call me? She said, they. And and I said,
The internet is forever.
yeah. And I said, out of curiosity, what gender am I? And she blushed and she said, I was going to skip over that, but it says you're a lesbian dolphin. So, uh,
So they think you're a lunatic.
also, that's probably, yeah. At the skin doctor, I do this with a lot of people, but if let's say I'm there, they're always running behind because people are running behind. When I walk in, I go Ben Gay and notice that I am 5 minutes early, and so on. And we kid and laugh and get on with the business at hand. The next time I went to the skin doctor, I only go once a year, I think it is. I walk in and I said, I'm Ben Gay. And she said, and I see you like to be praised for being early. And I said, where'd you
Oh,
get that? She said, off the computer. So
so what
when
you're
he
saying
walks
is
in
be careful
early,
what you say. Yeah.
yeah, when he walks in early, praise him. That's what he likes.
Oh my gosh. That I'm going to be laughing all day long. I have to go back. Let's go back to Eric because I've been writing down notes while you've been talking. I actually listened to you. Did you know that?
Listen, listen to, oh, no, I didn't know that. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to say it once. So I won't have to repeat it. But you were talking about Eric and script chunks, and I actually have a very small one that I use, and I don't make that many phone calls. I just don't. I do pretty much everything is digital. It's, they're talking to me online or I use a lot of email, but I have learned very, very quickly that when I need to call someone, I'm going to get their gatekeeper, obviously. It's rarely going to go to the person I really need to speak with, whether they're a client or whatever they are. And I have trained myself to say, hi, this is Denise Griffitts. May I speak with Devin? She's expecting my call. That's it. I'm in.
Excellent.
But I don't lie about it. If she's not expecting my call, I'll say that. I need to speak with her, or if she's not available, can she call me back? But I make darn sure they know who I am immediately.
Absolutely. And if they ask a question, don't dance around it. This is a note for some future show to talk about, but you just reminded me of it now. When I ask you the cost of something, have a prepared response ready instead of, well, what we'll do, we'll discuss that when we have our short phone call.
No, we won't.
Okay, we're not going to have a short phone call if you don't tell me the cost.
Right. Right.
And then the next thing is, well, it varies from person to person and situation. I got that. So tell me the cost range. And they said, well, we'll cover that in this is emails, let's say, or the front person for somebody running interference for them. When I ask you for the cost, that's a question to which I want to hear a number. Price range is fine. I taught one of my clients to say, well, that depends on what we decide on doing together. However, the least expensive package I've done in the last 30 days is, I'm making up numbers, is $500. The most expensive package I have is $15,000. Does either one of those rule you out? And
Oh, I like that.
yeah. and that he's been using it, and he said it doesn't bother anybody, and they think they got an answer. They understand, how you don't walk into an auto dealership and say, "What's the car cost?" Which car, with power steering or uh, a rope tied to the front tires or something. All that can change it. But the model you're looking at, stripped, is 25,000. Fully loaded is 35,000. Let's decide what you want on yours, and then you go into your presentation.
And then that's a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But don't dance around it. They hear that from all of the amateur salespeople that they talk to all day long. Can't tell you that. Uh, I'll tell you that later. What I want is Jim Rohn used to talk about. It comes to mind. It's a little off subject, but he said he'll say to salespeople when he was alive. He'll say to salespeople, um, "How many calls did you make yesterday?" Well, the dog got out and got bitten, and so on. I had to take him to the vet, and so on. And Jim would say, hold it, let me show you." And he turned the form around where there was a little square less than the size of a postage stamp. And he said, "They only gave me enough space here to write down a number. I don't have room to write a story. Let me repeat again. How many calls did you make yesterday?" And, 0 or 2 or,
Right.
or whatever. But you get them back down. I said to a guy the other day who got highly insulted, I said, "How much does it cost?" Or whatever, to tell me exactly what you're selling by email. I don't have time to talk to everybody who'd like to talk to me. By email, tell me exactly what you're offering and then how much it costs. And he went into that uh, dance to get me on the phone to then maybe tell me the price. And so I wrote to him, I will type slower for you. And I put spaces between the SLOW. I'll type slower for you so you can understand it. How much does it cost? Well, he was highly offended. He said, "Well, I appreciate you typing slower so an idiot like me can understand it, but we need to talk." And I said, "Well," emailed back. It was just fun at this point. It was like ping pong. I said, "Well, I must not have typed slow enough because you still didn't understand it. So now we know that you don't know the prices of what you're selling, and you're an idiot. Have a nice
And
day."
yeah, and you're writing it in crayon.
Yeah, I don't know how to type in crayon.
I do. I can, like, I'm a Southerner. We can insult you. We can make your ears bleed, and you're 5 miles down the road, and you don't even know it yet.
And you go,
It's
"Yeah, I
yeah,
think she insulted me."
yeah. I've actually had somebody call me, said, "Did you insult me?" And I just sighed. I went, "Was it too subtle?" And she just went, "What?" So that was the end of that quasi friendship. I have another question that I wrote down. This goes back to scripting because you said that, the one that you used to use was 37 minutes and then pacing. And I was on a Zoom call not too long ago, and I try to avoid them because most of the time they're just tedious and people chew with their mouths open, which will drive me absolutely insane. If you're on a Zoom call, put the cereal bowl down right now. Don't bring it to the desk with you. But this was something I actually did wanna know what it was all about, and I can't remember who the host was. Apparently New York, he was a New Yorker, and he was talking, and it was clear it was a script. You could tell. And the closer he got to the end, the faster he was talking, and I just left. And I actually had somebody from their team say, "Denise, what happened? You didn't stay." I said, "Look, I have Southern ears. I couldn't understand a word he was saying." And that was the end of that.
And it
Um,
sounded like he was eating Cheerios.
yeah, well, yeah, that but, I mean, he was it sounded like a machine gun coming out of his mouth. It was horrible. And some people do talk fast naturally, but the more panicked he got, the worse it got. So he just was not prepared, and I felt bad, but I wasn't going to sit there and just go, "Oh my god, that hurts. I can't take it anymore."
Well, uh, it's a thing of subtleties. You and I have talked about it. In fact, you even corrected me the other day when I named the wrong actor. But Cary Grant, I got it right this time,
Yep. Cary
uh,
Grant.
said the secret of acting was not to get caught at it. The secret of selling at a professional level is not to get caught at it. I've never had anybody since I learned better and got better many years ago. I've never had anybody say to me, "Oh, you're working off a script." But I say it to people frequently because I don't want to hear it. I want to, I ask you a question. Give me the answer to my question. If you've got that scripted, then tell me what it says. If you don't have it scripted, don't start tap dancing. I want to know how much does it cost? And the other thing is speak where they can understand you clearly and distinctly. I listened to
Right.
somebody the other day who was giving me a sales presentation about something, and it was something that it was one of those credit companies that clears up your credit and gets your credit card settled. I was putting a client with them, and I know the service, and I want them to do it. I just want to know how to refer them where I got credit for it. And the girl misunderstood the lady. Pardon me, I just made one of those sexist comments. The
Shame on you, Ben.
I'm
Shame.
I'm ashamed. I
No,
am
you're
really
not.
ashamed.
You're not, and you shouldn't be.
The lady was giving the the answer she thought to the question. It wasn't. But I sat back and listened to her, and I estimate that I was able to understand about 10 or 15% of what she said.
Hmm.
And that was because I knew the answer anyway. I knew what the service was. I was just calling to get a little thing clarified, so I could follow along. I was thinking to myself, I don't understand what you're saying, but I know what you should be saying at this point, and you're not doing that. So I blamed it on. I said it must be the equipment between us, but you sound tinny and hard to understand. So I'll call back later. And she said, well, I'll be happy to talk to you then. I said, no, if I recognize your voice, we're not going to be talking. I want to be able to understand questions and answers, et cetera. And that's not asking too much of a prospect. So have a great day, but get with somebody in your organization and let them listen. And the call was recorded, I know. So
Yeah.
get with somebody in your organization, play this call back to them, and get help. Have a nice day.
No, I hope she did.
Yeah, me too.
Because you don't know what you don't know. I mean, this poor guy on this Zoom call, I was actually getting, uh, I didn't get a headache, but I was getting jittery
Hmm.
just listening to this. And I know that wasn't his intention, but he probably doesn't know that he sounded like he was just rat-a-tat-a-tatting all over the place. And I do have Southern ears. I'm not going to sit around and go, what? Yeah, I'll just leave. So, but oh, and
Don Cody is, I work with a guy named Don Cody. You
I
probably know
know.
him.
I
Yeah.
finally got into some tears the other day.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Um, anyway, we do Zoom calls. I'll see you on one of those, or I'll see a picture of you or something. They do a lot of Zooming. And I'm always saying I'll say, Don, it's none of, because I'm looking at 20 people. Don, it's none of my business, but Bob is eating a candy bar. And the point being, you don't do that. You, you have an image that you present, whether it's speaking, staring at the camera, whatever, you have an image, and it doesn't include sloppy talk, and it doesn't include eating a Snickers bar.
Oh,
Uh,
I wrote an article about that a few weeks ago. I was just ticked off. It's like, you're wasting my time.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I ask you to save us some time at the end of this call, and I'm going to give you that time now. Uh, I want you to tell them in no uncertain language. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, Denise Griffitts is the queen of podcasting and website building and all sorts of things. I wouldn't think of going to anybody but her. And so I've asked her to let me give up my time for promoting my stuff today and let her promote her services in no uncertain terms, which I fully 100% endorse. Take it away, Denise.
Well, thank you. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we are, Ben and I are both now sponsoring people who want to come on. They want to get their voices heard. I mean, to me, podcasting is marketing 101. In fact, that's what my new book for the closers is all about. Marketing 101, get your voice heard. It's one thing to say, well, I've got a website. Well, that's great. But do you know how many of those are out there? And you have to drive traffic to them. Your voice, once you start getting heard and people start paying attention, that's pretty much forever. That becomes your legacy. And I started about a year, well, mid of last year, offering sponsorships very carefully, very cautiously, because I don't want to just put anybody up here that, they're going to not really be of help to our audience. So this year, I decided that we'll do only 5, just 5, because I don't want to run over my existing sponsors and push them out of the way. They have to be incorporated with those sponsors. And it's just a great way to get your voice heard. My podcast, Your Partner in Success Radio, and by extension, this one, the Closers Inner Circle podcast, is in the top 1.5% of the most popular podcasts in the world. I'm big in China, Ben. I don't know why, but we're very big in China. I haven't worked that one out. Somebody said, well, they speak English. Okay, that's it. But if you want to be able to get a much larger audience, become a sponsor. It's not expensive. In fact, I do need to put the price up after, the spring thing, but you're welcome to contact me. Call me 888-719-6711. In fact, I prefer that you call me because not everybody's a good fit. And like Ben says, I need to get to know you, like you, and trust you before I start bringing you on as a sponsor. And the other thing is, I've had a lot of people say, Denise, can you help me with my podcast? It's either stuck or I don't know where to start. It's withering on the vine. I do a consultation with people it's prepared to get you out there, get your voice heard. And it takes me about 3 hours to help you. Again, it's not all that expensive. Do give you a lot of homework, but we go through it. Where are you stuck? What's going on? What's not working? And I'm here with you from the beginning to the end because I know this industry. I've been doing it a long time. So I think, and just again, 1-888-719-6711. And I would love to hear from you.
Denise told me one time that she designs websites in her sleep.
Yeah. And look, I have been known, this is no joke, because I think and dream in HTML. No kidding. I can stand over a roux. I'm making a gumbo, and I've got that thing mapped out in my head, pictures and everything, before I put my pen to paper. I can see it in my head.
An amazing skill. I have some, but nothing like that. I have to resort to notes. If I were cooking gumbo, right beside me on the stove would be a memo pad.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah,
I'm always writing something.
Yeah, if I don't write it down, it's gone. And so on. But anyway, I repeat, ladies and gentlemen, Denise Griffitts is the queen of podcasting, website building, etc. She's up to date on the newest things. AI won't save you. You'll just have a bad AI piece. But Denise can turn anything into gold. So listen to it, get in contact and listen to her carefully. I repeat, I fully 100% endorse what she's doing. And even the website for this endeavor, for this show, is endorsed by the National Association of Professional Salespeople. And I don't give out that approval casually. And that was done because I know, like, and respect her. So,
And
Denise,
you're my mentor.
Tell them goodbye, and I'll see you next week.
Well, thank you. Tell people where they can get the closers, because listen, I tell anybody and everybody who will listen, if you are listening to this podcast or even Your Partner in Success Radio, I hope you're listening to both of them, but you need to understand what the closers are, because we're all in sales, right, Ben? I mean,
Correct.
we're selling every day. I was trying to sell my cat in to stop licking me the other day. She wasn't gonna do it. I think I told you my 21-year-old Odalie Griffitts passed away last week, and my two big ginger cats have just they're 20 pounds apiece. They just thump all over me. They land, and I'm going, "Ugh," but they won't leave me alone. They're trying to comfort me. So, and I was having a conversation with Hamilton is an ass. That's his name. I was like, "Get off my chest. I can't breathe." He didn't care.
Yeah, no.
He just didn't care. But we're constantly talking with or selling or trying to convince something or somebody to do something. So you're all in sales, I'm telling you, which leads me back to the closers. So, Ben, how do they get them and why do they need them? The closers 1 and 2.
And others in the series, including your upcoming book, Closers Part 4, will be by Denise Griffitts. And I can't wait to add it to officially add it. So what you do is you go to eBay, and then once you're there, just put in Ronzoni Books, all one word, RONZONEBOOKS, Ronzoni Books. And up will come the Closers series as it is so far. We're, I think, committed through the Closers Part 9, and we have more to go with highly qualified
Really?
people. Yeah,
That,
commitments.
I know my friend CK, Cynthia
Mm-hmm.
K, she's going to be an author. Our other friend, your friend and mine, Randy Chaffee, is writing a book. So I'm excited to see what comes down the pike.
It is a great. They're known as the Bibles of the sales industry. When there was just one, they used to call it the Blue Book because originally it was the Closers, not Part 1. That came along when Part 2 came along, and they are the Bibles of the sales industry. And in my speaking, coaching, consulting careers, they are what I call my passports to credibility. I I was their passport to credibility in the beginning. Now it's sort of 50-50. People say, "Oh, you're with the Closers?" I say, "Yeah, I wrote a lot of it." "Oh, okay. Well, we'd like to have you speak to our group." So when you learn how to sell, you can not only sell items, you can sell yourself, which I highly recommend. Thank you as always, Denise. It's been a wonderful day meeting with you and talking with you. And I assume we'll
Which
meet
is
again next week.
on Wednesday, and that will be the end of our 10 part. We started this for the new year, our 10-part section. Then after that, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll have to make stuff up, but
Yeah.
which we
Well,
do anyway. But
I'm a Southerner like you, so we can make up a lot of stuff.
we can, and we're very entertaining while we do it. So, everybody, thank you so much. Go to your partner in success radio.com later today, and you'll see this podcast pop up. And thank you, Ben. Tell Gigi hi.
I shall.